Hi, my name is João. I am one of the main students working in DeepSense 6G here in the Wireless Intelligence Lab. And in this video, I'd like to show you how you can visualize our data. And to do that, I'm going to do three things. First, we're going to go through the setup of the Python environment necessary to run all the tutorials for visualizing data. Second, we're going to run said tutorials. And third, I'm going to show you a way of visualizing data without any coding, and also some tricks that some of you might not be aware of to find the data that you want to find efficiently in any scenario. Let's do it. A quick disclaimer first. This video is about Python. It's going to be focused on Python, but the structure and organization of data is independent of any language. So if you understand what we are doing here, you should be able to do it on your own in any language. In most languages probably. But we also have tutorials in Matlab, and they are going to do exactly the same thing. So I'm here in the DeepSense website, and you can find our tutorials here. First, the setup of the environment. And what we advise is to download Mamba. I'm in Windows, so I will download this. And when it's done, you execute it. I'm going to execute it here. You do need to provide it. Windows doesn't trust it for some reason. And you go through the prompts. Currently I already have it installed, so I'm just going to do a sample run for you. And I would further select this option and this one. And then you can go ahead and install it. After you install it, you'll find it here in Miniforge, a Miniforge prompt in your start menu. And you click that. And now you perform the commands that we put here. So I'm simply going to copy and paste all these commands. Although I'm going to put a small 2 here just because I already have a DeepSense environment with a lot of other packages. But essentially I'm going to be pasting the commands into the command prompt and accepting the changes. I'll meet you when this is done. All packages got successfully installed. We also installed Spider, which is IDE, and we're going to run all the code in Spider. Find the Spider here that we also installed. I already have it open here at the side. And if you have multiple environments, you want to make sure that you have the correct path. So currently I'm in my DeepSense env, but I installed it in DeepSense env 2, so I need to find it. It's here, and I apply the changes. And you should see that before I was in a Python 3.9, but I installed Python 3.10. So by updating the console, now I'm at the right environment. And for the tutorials, what I did was I copied this code and I pasted it in this cell. Then I added this little separator, which helps us separate cells. And I did the same thing. And I copied and pasted and copied and pasted. I did this for all the code. And I only did changes in certain very specific lines, like this one. And I'm going to tell you the changes I did. Rather, I'm going to do the changes at the same time, and everything else should be exactly the same. So in the first one, what you actually want to do here is to put the path to your scenario folder. What is your scenario folder? First, you need to download a scenario. To download a scenario, you go here to Scenarios, and you choose one scenario. Currently, for the tutorials, almost all of them work for scenario 9. They work for all scenarios, all the times, but some tutorials are displaying modalities that don't exist in all scenarios. And in scenario 9, all modalities exist. So that's a good scenario to run for all tutorials. And so we're going to download this scenario. it first helps knowing what the scenario is going to be about. And if you read the scenario page, we hope to have described well what happened in a scenario, but currently I'm just going to verbally explain it to you, just so you understand the data that we're going to see. It's a good idea to check the data collection for the right testbed. And the testbed is written in scenario 9, and it uses testbed 1, and this is how the measurement was performed. We have two units. Unit 1 is the base station, and it's going to stay there, static, and filming the road and pointing the phase array at the road. And the unit 1 will have other modalities with it, like a lidar and like a radar. And then unit 2 is going to be a car with a GPS attached, and the car is going to be passing in this road back and forth. And the car is transmitting to the base station, and the base station is going to be performing a beam sweep across this codebook. It's a 64 beam codebook, and 10 times a second, roughly, it's going to update the received power in each of those beams, and that's what we're going to see in the power vector. So that's it. Let's visualize all the data. To download it, you can download it here. This is how you're going to see it. I already have an account, so I click here, login. I'm logged in into 6G. If you want to cite papers, by the way, there's a paper citation matrix there. And I click download scenario 9 data. And it takes me to this Dropbox link, and I can click download. And it starts downloading there. Now I just downloaded the scenario here, and after downloading I extracted it, and this is what I got. And so to go on with the tutorials, I need to copy the scenario folder path, and to do that I go back one, and I can Control C this path, and I simply copy paste that path here. That's it. I just pasted it, which actually it's exactly the same thing that is pasted there. And that's enough to visualize the scenario, because what the first two cells are going to do, I'm going to execute them now. To execute a cell, you can press Control Enter, or you can press Shift Enter to execute that cell and pass to the next one. So I executed the first two cells, and they went and read the CSV path. In Spider, you can also press F9 to run the selection. So here CSV path has this CSV, which is the CSV that is here. And this CSV is very important because it indexes all our data. And we're going to use this CSV to find the data inside the folders. So to start, let's visualize the beams first. And the beams, as you can see here, it's in this column, unit 1 power 60 gigahertz. So if you go into this folder, unit 1 millimeter wave data, we should find the files that we are going to visualize. And the files, like I mentioned, they are going to have essentially the power measurements in each beam. So these are 64 value vectors. And so when I execute this cell, it loads the first 100 samples from this column. And if I execute the next cell, it's going to plot them. And you can see here that the power, so on the x-axis we see the indexes, beam indexes, and you see that the beam index with the maximum power is changing from left to right. So currently for the sample number 5, the maximum beam is around maybe 4, and in this one it increased. So it means that we are receiving more power in a beam more to the right, which should indicate that our transmitter is more to the right. And so let's visualize some images now to check that. And if we plot the images for samples 5, 10, and 20, we see exactly that here. Sample 5, 10, and 20. The transmitter, is moving from left to right, and the optimal beam for that transmitter is also moving from left to right, which makes sense. And we show here the images from this column, unit 1 RGB, and if we go into the right path, it should be here, camera data, we're going to find all those images. All of them. And that's what we are displaying. Next is the GPS code. And in the GPS code, note that so far we didn't do any changes besides putting the right folder in there. But in the GPS full plot, we need to do some changes. And the changes are, we did not include an image with the GPS with the scenario. So we need to go into Google Maps and acquire that image. And it's not any Google Maps, it's actually Google Earth. But you need to use Google Earth Pro for the desktop, which you can find here. Google Earth Pro on desktop, and install it and download it and install it. Because the web version does not have enough precision for our application, and then will not be able to plot the coordinates accurately. So I already installed it and I have it here. And one way, well, so where is our scenario now, you may ask? We can go into our base station position, which is here in GPS data, and we can use this position to find it. Yeah, and there we go. I'm gonna zoom in. There is our base station. This should be similar to what we see in our scenario. Yeah, this is currently we have the 3D visualization, but you can tell there's an entrance. Yeah, this is the same thing as we are seeing here. And to take the screenshot in Google Earth, first you need to be looking straight down at Earth, and you need to orient towards north. So I'm gonna take the point from there. Then you're gonna place points where your right and left corner are gonna be. So you click that, and this place mark will appear, and you put the place mark where you want it to be. For the bottom left corner and top right, these are the two corners that you need to take the coordinates of. And I already placed them in the right place of our screenshot. And I'm gonna take the screenshot essentially. So here is our screenshot. So I'm gonna save this. I'm going to save the image as scenario 9 example satellite image. That's it. And now I saved it inside the resources folder, which is this one. There it is, the image. And now I need to take the coordinates that we set in Google Earth Pro and compute and put them here. So we do that. We get the properties. We get the coordinate here. So 33, 25, 8.32. 33, 25, 8.32. And you do the same for the longitude, and you do the same for the top right corner. And essentially what this is going to do, which you need to define this function first, is going to convert them to decimal degrees instead of this format of degrees, minutes, and seconds. It will convert to decimal. And okay, now we are ready to plot the GPS image. And I'm going to execute this cell. And here we have it. So currently, what this scatter plot means is each of these points has a color, and we are plotting the beam index of the beam that received the maximum power in each of these points. And so you see that more towards the right we have larger indexes, more towards the left we have smaller, because naturally when the car was in this position it was using indexes that were early in the codebook, so smaller indexes. In this case, suppose we want to plot just the positions of our samples, 5, 10, and 20. We can do that by checking here the position array, and we still have our selected samples here. Yeah, they are still have the right values. So we can put these selected samples in this position array. And actually the best beams, they probably, yes, exactly. We probably also need to select the best beams of the selected samples. And if we plot again, yes, these are the 3 positions of those samples that we saw. And so we can check. I know that here the color looks like it's close to 1. This is a lighter blue, so maybe it's around 8, and then it's a green, so around 32. And if we check back, it's more or less this that we see here. Close to 1, around 8, 10, and then more on a beam more on the center. Okay, we already did 3 modalities. Let's do Lidar now. This is a 2D Lidar, and we just run the code. Again, the code is, in this case, fetching data from this column, and if we go into the column, Unit 1 Lidar SCR. SCR is a static clutter removal. We find it here in Lidar SCR data. So Unit 1 Lidar SCR data, and they are mat files, so that you can also open them from Matlab. And each of these files has 216 samples. So across the angle, one row is 216, and we are plotting essentially 40 of those samples in a row, and we are stacking them. And this is the Lidar signature across 40 samples. So you can see that the car is going essentially from left to right. And this is what we see in this 2D Lidar. Later we are going to plot the 3D, and it's going to be slightly more exciting. But this makes sense. And you can tell that around sample 20, the car is at the center, which corresponds with what we saw before on the other 2 modalities. Yeah, sample 20 around the center. Now, let's do the radar next. The radar, we're going to plot only 1 sample, in this case sample 20 as well. And we run the code, and we get the range angle and range velocity maps. And in this range angle, although we don't have a lot of angle resolution because our number of antennas is limited, we can still see that the main object after clutter removal, actually this one doesn't even have clutter removal. The main object is at the center, at the 0 angle, and the velocity also makes sense. Next, again, if you have any question on the code, on the parameters, contact us. We usually reply fast to emails, and we want to help you use our data in your research, and we want this project to be useful, of course. Lastly, we're going to run a 3D Lidar, and for 3D Lidar we need another scenario. Currently we are running it in scenario 34. You can find scenario 34 here. And in scenario 34, you do the same thing. You can go to download here and download the data. I already have it downloaded as well. and I placed the data in an external drive G, with all the other scenarios. Note this time the data, it's going to be the parameter that we want to give is the Lidar folder. So I essentially copy this folder and put it there. And that's the last line I changed. You just have to provide the right path. And if you run this code, you will be able to see the Lidar in an interactive window. And here's the window. You can zoom in. You can try to rotate it. So currently, well, let me try to make the Lidar a bit more organized here. So you can see the cars passing. There in the center is a base station. And you can see also in the base station, there's there's a person there that is operating the computer, and there are people walking by. Let me try to put this in a slightly, way that is slightly easier to perceive the perspective of the base station. You can see the Lidar data here, and this is how you display all the modalities. You have a lot of controls here, by the way, in this Lidar visualization. You can change the color, you can rotate in a multitude of ways. You can essentially copy your perspective, so you can do like Control C, and that will copy your perspective. And to know all the controls, you can press H, and it printed the controls there. So I'm going to stop the visualization, and these are all the controls that you can use in this Open 3D window. And to change, if you want to change your perspective, remember I pressed Control C to copy the view, and if I paste it, I essentially can use these fields in this dictionary to get my view from the start. And there are many other parameters you can change and you can play in this code. For example, you can start saving frames, so it will take a screenshot of every window. You can change the size of the points, you can change the background color. There are a lot of things that you can do with this code. And I mean, by all means, if you have a certain application in mind, let us know and we can help, because very often we've done plenty of research with this data set. That's what motivated us to make it open, and we are already experienced in it, so we can help fit your use case. Okay, we visualized, we set up the environment, we visualized and used all tutorials. Now I'll tell you the trick to, without any coding, visualize the data. And the trick is through the videos. But not only that. So imagine here scenario 34. And I'm gonna put it in HD. And in scenario 34, this is the Lidar data that we just visualized. We see cars moving here. And the GPS, from the GPS we can tell that the car that our transmitter is in is probably this one. Yeah, it's making a corner now. Now the tricks that I told you about is that you can move sample one by one here, back and forth, and you can change the speed. So these videos are a great way for you to find the data quickly in the scenario that you want to find the data in. So if I press, I'm going to show you the commands in a second, but if I press here, I'm pressing the period key. I'm moving one sample at a time, and I can move backward as well. And these commands, you can find them in keyboard shortcuts for YouTube. In this case, I was using these two. And you can control in many different ways, of course. And this is really a good way, fast, and you can just check what scenarios are going to be useful to you, and where is the data in each scenario that you need to do your work. One final thing, suppose you want to use our datasets for machine learning research. We have specific tasks here in this tab, the machine learning tasks tab. And so suppose you want to use positions to predict beams. You can go into this task and you can read the description and the introduction of this type of task. Also, you'll find here the leaderboard, where we benchmarked our scripts, which are published in some paper, which will be linked here eventually, but I'll show you in a second how to find it. And in this benchmark leaderboard, you'll find the top 1 accuracies and other top 2 and 3 for some scenarios where we ran our algorithm. And we hope that this data set can also be used for benchmarking and for increasing the reproducibility in machine learning research for wireless. Also, if you can compare the performances of different algorithms with a common data set, that should help plenty already. And so we are hoping to make this more organized, and we'll make a video at that point how to do that. But if you want to use this dataset for machine learning, how you can use it is you check the task that you want to perform. There might not be the task here yet. You can formulate your own task, of course. You click on it, you'll be able to download the development dataset, which is essentially a subset of scenarios. But you can also just download the scenario dataset and use that one instead. Moreover, to reproduce the results, it will be linked here in the future, but what you can do is to go to our website, which is wirelessintelligence.org, or you can also find it in ylab.net. We have a couple of domains, and in our group's website, you can go to research and search for the paper that was linked in that machine learning task. So in case of my paper that's gonna be now presented in ICC 23, it's here, position aided beam prediction, and you can find the paper itself on archive, the code, video, and the link to the dataset. For reproducing, you can see the video here, and you should be able to find it here. And all the videos, we have videos for all these tasks and all these papers, and in the video we go through the processes, the steps to normalize the data, and how we input the data into machine learning model, and how we get our results. And the results should match those in the page. That's all I wanted to tell you. Thanks for listening. Let us know if you have any questions about the dataset, or any questions about our research. You can find us, you can ask those questions regarding DeepSense in our DeepSense forum, which is, my head is currently hiding it, but you can also find, it's here in the corner. You can also find the forum in our tutorials page. We linked it here. We recommend you to post questions there, just so people can find them more easily. But you can also just email them to us. You can find our emails here in the team tab. These are the original authors of the DeepSense paper, and I'm this one here at the center. You can use my email and contact me, or you can contact any of the other researchers that worked on this project. Know if you have suggestions to improve the dataset. If you have use cases that are not covered in scenarios, you can let us know as well, because we are expanding the dataset massively in many different directions, and we will likely cover your use case sooner or later, and it can be sooner if you let us know that you need that. And that's all. Thank you very much again, and I'll see you in the next one.